Hello, welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Mike Lamb, and my friend here is Adam Gaheb. We're coaches from Focal Point Coaching of Cary and Utah, and
Mhm.
we're here to talk business and exciting, fun things that we all like to learn about and improve on. Today, we want to talk about something that we think is really important to business leaders and owners, helping them to understand that simplifying our processes help us in the long run. It may be something that takes effort in the front end, but in the long game and the scope of things, if we simplify and improve our processes and how we're doing things, it can be a huge benefit to us and efficiencies and all the things in our business.
Yeah.
And there's so many tools that can help us as business owners and leaders to simplify our processes, and even without spending a lot of money, because I know there's all these different things that are coming at us all the time. Hey, it'll cost you this much a month, and subscribe to this. But there's ways we can do it ourselves internally and simplify our processes and the things we're doing. Um, Adam, what are you seeing with this, with regards to this?
I'm gonna broaden your scope here a little bit, Mike. And by the way,
I
nice to
thought I
see
was
you
pretty
again
broad.
today. I'm gonna take it a little broader. So you talk about simplification of processes. I think simplification needs to go a little bit wider. And here's why I'm gonna say that. I use simplification as a means to talk about the critical decision-making process and basically taking these big complex problems and breaking them down into simple modulated solutions and the reasoning and justification as to why. And I'll get into that in just a moment. But I think simplification has so many benefits for so many different people. Number one, we know not everyone thinks, rations, understands the same way, right? So breaking the problems down, whether it be process, whether it be a challenge, whether it be a corrective solution, breaking it down into its most basic form and factor gives you a couple things. It makes it so that you can lay out all the different variables. You can see all the individual pieces, and more importantly, more people will have that aha moment, right? That light bulb will go off, and they will see some of the nuances that you may see and someone else may not. So I like to break things down into simplified forms because it gives you your base pieces, your building blocks in which to re-engineer a solution, to re-engineer a process, or to think about your critical thinking so that you're making simple decisions. Let's just talk about this one as my first point. A simple decision. Yes, no. True, false. Go, no go. Those are things that are, do you think they're quickly made, or do you think that people hem and haw and there's a long decision-making process there?
I think we make it more complex than we need to.
Perfect.
And I
But
think that's the natural reaction of most individuals, is to dive to the more complex side of things.
yeah, but why? Why? So when you are choosing between two things, left, no, I mean left, right, yes, no, up, down, that's an easier choice for you, correct?
It should be, yeah.
You typically have more confidence with your easier choices. Also correct.
hmm
So why wouldn't you simplify? Let's see what you did there. Break everything down to these basic building blocks, these basic principles. Have confidence in the smaller decisions, and then layer them. Build them up so that you're just making a series of simple decisions, but you're doing it with confidence.
Yeah.
That's the way I like to use the simplification piece. So forgive me for broadening, but it plays really well into your process-driven discussion you've got too. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I just think it's human nature sometimes, especially in the workplace and in leadership. Sometimes we want to overcomplicate things.
Mm.
I don't know. I probably should do more research on this, but there's probably some research showing that that's just in the workplace, we like to make things more complex than they need to be. And then simply looking at
I've got a
it,
thought.
what?
I've got a thought.
But yeah, and you can go if you want to, but
No, I'll wait. I'll wait.
I
I'm
think
good.
we overcomplicate things when we can make something very less complex. take out or take out steps and things that are unnecessary to get to a solution that will get us results and get us probably the same results.
Okay. So my 2 cents, we like to make complex answers, solutions, etc., because we want to show our mastery. Think about it. You're in a workplace. It is you against someone else. How do we get evaluated? We get reviews, but let's be honest, we get paid,
Mhm.
right? Um, so you're typically always in a competitive environment where you're trying to show your mastery, you're trying to show your skill, you're trying to show your benefit or value to the organization, how you differentiate yourself from someone else. We boast, we elaborate, it's human nature to try to, set ourselves apart. And at its
Ourselves up.
base, exactly, exactly. So at its base form, I think that there's just this innate thought within ourselves to separate, to show those skills, right? We want to show people how great we are, right? It's like when you meet someone brand new, and everyone's like, oh, well, when you first start networking and you go up and talk to someone, you got to have an elevator pitch in 30 seconds. Well, I don't. I don't. I want to sit there and ask a couple questions and then sit back and shut up. Why? Because we all inherently are a little vain, a little arrogant, a little full of ourselves. We want to talk about ourselves. We want to talk about our experiences. We want to do those things. So you know what I say? Let them, right? So I think some of that plays into why we build complexity. Um, the other thing I think that comes into it, Mike, is I don't think we know how to break down problems as well as we used to. I see
Simple
it
versus
working.
complex, right?
Working with multi-generational organizations, you have the people that get a problem and they want to get everyone huddled in a room with a massive series of whiteboards and they list out all the information, all the things they know, all the assumptions. And these are typically people that I've seen that have the experience and knowledge that have been around a while. You infer what you want about age and all those things. But, they take their time to get all the pieces of information so they can craft a very detailed, proposal, outline, plan of attack. Now, the benefit to that is it's well thought through. It's well understood. They get the insight and information from others. The downside, it's typically slow to execute. There is more of a ramp up time. People may feel like it's taking too long to take action, right? So you've got your pluses and cons and your pluses and minuses, pros and cons. You don't know where I'm going.
You're
With
really
all of
juicing
these
them up
things, I
today.
know, man, I'm all over. But, the reality is we have to have multiple, groups of these people in order within the workplace. And it's really just about making sure that you feel confident with that next step. And so that next step, whether you have all of the things written down on the whiteboard or you just have one thing and you're laser focused, but you have to be able to take that time out and pause so you can reevaluate, right? So simplify enough to where you make progress, you get started, but then make sure you're building in to the cycle, the schedule, the deliverable to pause so that you can evaluate, are you actually doing what you're supposed to? Are you actually delivering what is expected, etc.? Simplify.
Yeah,
Simple.
and if you've been able to simplify it down to, breaking it down into things that are just one step process, there's only
Mhm.
one way to make a mistake, right? So
Which
if
is,
like if we, for instance, if it's I have to contact somebody to make an appointment. Okay, I give that to my assistant. They could make a mistake. I can make a mistake in communicating to them. They can make a mistake in dialing. They can make a mistake in their communication. Or I can make one quick call myself. The only mistake I could possibly make is dialing the number wrong.
yeah, right,
Sometimes
right.
make things more complex than they need to be. And that's just a very basic example, but in
Yeah.
processes and what we're doing, let's try to make it as easy as possible for us and for our team to get that with and eliminate as many possible mistakes and steps that can be a problem.
So if I were to paraphrase or summarize, it would be, one of the benefits of simplification is the possibility of reducing human error because you have a finite decision point. Left, right, up, down, yes, no, true, false. Correct?
Yep.
I love it. I think life is easy. It is easy when it's a series of simple decisions. Life is hard when there are five different degrees of separation away from, or what I like to call the what ifs, right?
Yep.
I got a really strong path forward. I know I want to go here, but what if this happens? Oh, we've slightly deviated. And then, well, what if, okay, deviated more. And next thing you know, you've devolved so far away from the base point. Okay. And I guess the point here I'm trying to make is don't lead with a solution.
Mhm.
Lead with the value add that you're trying to get. Far too often. Heck, I was just on a call prior this morning where someone asked a question, but the question was phrased in an open-ended manner and it was way too broad. And so they let the panel kind of drive and weave and deviate. And I don't think the gentleman actually got the answer to what he was looking for. Right. And so I sent him a note afterwards. I was like, hey, sorry, this is the coach in me, but specificity matters, right? If you ask a direct question, a very specific question, you're going to get a very specific interest. It was about tools usage within organizations, right? And
Yep.
I was like, I just think being specific, being, targeted is extremely helpful. So in this case, I don't want you to lead with what the solution. Let's not get into solutioning. What is the problem we're trying to solve?
What are the
What
results
is
you're trying to get?
bingo? What's the result? What's the value? And what does it look like when we're done? And then let's build a solution that has both of those starts and finishes in mind. When you and I talk about things like SMART goals, right? And SMART goals have to be time boxed, that T, right? Time boxed. Why do we do that? It's because we can put a bookend on it. There's a start and a finish. And if there's a start and a finish, then we know how to evaluate the stuff in the middle. This is no different.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where my brain was going. It's like, let's start with where we need to be, the results we want to get, where we're at, and let's go in between. So, for instance, I'm an insurance salesman, and I have to have 12 documents to get this person signed up. I have to involve an admin along the way. Let's look at this process and say, can I simplify this to one website that I can just send them a link to rather than
Mhm.
involving all these steps in between and an admin and
Yeah.
calendaring and scheduling all this stuff? I know that's a very, that's a simple example, but we can look at all our processes, accounts receivable, um, invoicing. We can look at all these different parts, operations in our process when we go out to a job site, what that looks like.
Hmm.
How can we make that a one-step process rather than, okay, I've got a schedule, I've got to do this, how can we break down the process to get the results, which is, okay, I want to get paid. That's accounts receivable. So what's that look like from invoicing to paid? Um,
Hmm.
and what are the steps and what steps aren't we taking? Sometimes we might have to look at that and
Of course.
what steps are redundant or unnecessary to get from invoicing to paid.
So Mike,
That's another one of those simple processes that everyone does, but I think that
yeah.
not a lot of thought goes into it, especially when we're starting a new business. If we're early on, we probably are just trying to solve the problems, and we don't stop and think about the process to get there.
Yeah. So let me play devil's advocate here, if you don't mind. I
Yeah,
love
go for it.
doing this. So we're advocating simplicity. We're advocating breaking things down into its basic forms and then using those building blocks to rebuild either the process, the critical thought process, your decision making, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what do you say to the naysayers that say, well, simple anything is not going to solve my problem? Right? I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we did an episode on the can'ts.
Yeah.
And I feel like this kind of flows into that extremely well because, people will push back when you oversimplify things because they get frustrated with the speed at which we are moving because it's not solving their critical mass problem. So, what do you say and how do you address those types of things when you see them either through clients or in the workplace?
Well, let's look at it. I mean, we have to look at it through the Gleicher's formula and take a look at it and see what the dissatisfaction is.
Hmm.
See what, if it's great enough that we need to actually not oversimplify it and need to take the steps, and take a look at it. If it's something that fits in that formula that we need to make change and the dissatisfaction's high enough, then yeah, we probably need to rethink it. But if it isn't, if it's just one individual and I have 100 other people that are saying this is simplification is great and wonderful, then we have to address that individual and work through that with them. But
Hmm.
um, we have to kind of run that through that equation and figure out
Okay.
if we're hitting on it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I like to, I came from software, right? So I like to fail fast. And
Yeah.
so what I always like to tell people, especially when I'm dealing with naysayers, simple doesn't work. So great. Well, how about this? I can get to a simple answer in about 3 seconds. How long is a complex answer going to get you? And they'll tell me, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, 3, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
okay, well, great. So let's just say I have my simple answer and we try my simple solution in a POC. How long do you think that'll take? I don't know, 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes. Great. So you're telling me that I can then get an answer, try it, evaluate it, all before even a quarter of time has gone by while you're still thinking through a complex solutioning process? Yeah. I'm not saying I'm always right, and I'm not saying simplified always works, but I'm saying 9 times out of 10, it's getting people to think about the mindset and about where they're spending their time. Right? You and I deal with this constantly. When people say, "Oh, I want more revenue. I want this." No, they do, but they really want more time, right? And so, if we can get a decision point, and if we can know that maybe my simplistic solution isn't going to work, does that not also scratch something off the list and we know what not to spend time on? So it's not just about where we've saved time in making a decision, but we've saved time and stopped us, myself, the organization, etc., from going down another path that we know is not going to work. So I like to use the simplified strategy as a means to, basically target and hone my direction. Now, back when I was writing code, that would be, you would bisect your code. If you had an error somewhere in there, you're going to go halfway through, put a breakpoint, run. Did the error happen in that top half of code? No. Cool. Let me throw that out. And then I'm looking down at the bottom half. Similar thought process
Yep.
where we're just trying to hone in scope down so that we're actually focusing on solving the key critical problem, not just this big, huge, complex solution that may take us in 9,000 directions.
It just looking at it, that's a beautiful example of that. And I think about um, coaching, and I want to turn it back to coaching and us and
Hmm.
coaching. And we use 1 hour of their time during the week, and we can help as a coach in one
Hmm.
hour reconfigure an entire business for months or years.
Yeah. No,
And
fact.
that is a great example of, hey, if we sit down with you and we spend 1 hour with you, it will have, it's simple, right? It's a simple thing to sit down and talk through and work through things with a coach or with a consultant or whoever, or
Hmm.
with your other team members, but get it simplified. Keep it simple. We don't need to spend hours talking about something that we can do in an hour or we can make huge changes. And that coaching to me is like that's where I see like it's amazing that I can come into a business that's been running for 15 years and in 1 hour make huge changes and improvements. And the
Yeah.
it's simplified for me because I'm not the person standing in the warehouse or
Yep.
working on the job or talking and dealing with personalities and all those things. But it's simple for me and it really makes a huge difference.
Here's a fun and quick story. So, why is it simple for us? And that's what I want to kind of get at. So yesterday, I had someone at the house. They were giving me a quote for something. Actually, artificial turf. Why? I don't know. That's fine. Cool. Just go with it. And he was asking me what I did, and I was explaining it, and he was talking about a couple of the things that he was dealing with, and I was explaining a couple of these simple principles. And I finished. I'm like, does that make sense? I'm like, do you have a good understanding of what it is I do? He goes, how the heck did you make that so easy? I'm like, well, it was just because I used a couple of really simple decision points. You said left, right, yes, no. Based on that, I went down a different path. He's like, but it sounds so easy. How's it so hard to execute? I'm like, it's really not. The hard part is what we just did. The hard part was getting you to have a mindset to look at the same problem in a different way and to evaluate it in a simplistic manner.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and goes, so that's what you do? I said, I mean, one of many, but yes, right? And so that just explains your point extremely well. Why is this easy for us to do? Why can we, do what we do and help businesses, help executives across multiple industries, across multiple verticals? Why do we not have to have the subject matter expert information about being the greatest person in roofing or, the greatest, electrical engineer? It's because business is universal. It's about a mindset. It's about a process. It's about a methodology. It's about, understanding what factors are important, what variables we have to focus on. So we're really educating on a thought process, a mindset, discipline, strategy, execution, accountability. Man, I could probably
Result.
rattle more, but
Yep.
it's simple principles that are just hard to see and do by yourself without training, without the discipline and structure to drive you down the order of operations, the specific paths to build off of that next win and to keep going. And that's it, man.
I couldn't have said it any better. I think if we simplify our processes, collapse it down, look at the process, break it out, decide what's necessary, what's unnecessary, make that quick yes, no decisions along the way is and understand that there are simple and complex problems. And we can quickly analyze that, and we should be making those simple problems. Let's get back time. Let's simplify things and make it work well, get the results we want, and it'll give us so much more time.
Oh, I love it. I love it, but that's why we do what we do. And nice job wrapping. I think that was a fantastic summary, and it's a perfect place to go in for today.
Thanks everyone for jumping on and catching another episode.